Hi there, tech people. This is Sean Worker. It's great to have you back to the Adapters TechX, where we make it easy for TTH, travel, tourism, and hospitality, retail, and others to understand all things about as we unpack the tech stack. Equally, big shout out to No Vacancy, our partners in the US that push this show as we push theirs, and Hunter Gatherer producers that do a great job making all us look good. So thanks again. This is really an honor because we've got Dara Meath. Dara Meath is the Divisional Chief Information Officer for Digital and Ecom for Conair. And if you caught us on our quick hit, you'll know that it is a firm that manufactures a great deal of products that we use every day. Some you know, some you don't. That comes from Conair, including obviously the hair dryers and the curlers, but you got Cuisinart, wearing, and scrunchies. And Dara is going to talk us more about what products they have. She has an illustrious career. She's sharing about what she's done. She's an advisor to many groups, including Pace University, a lot of other places as well. So incredible career. And we're catching her after 10 weeks of travel. Who said travel was over in business class? So it's great to have Dara. And Dara, it is great to have you. It's good to see you again. And, I think the pace of energy is just oozing from the quick hit over here to the extended vodcast that we're doing. So, obviously, let's start first with just another update on Conair. And then we promised our listeners from the quick hit to have a chat about your favorite comfort food and a book that inspires you. So let's hear more about Conair.
Sure. Yeah. So Conair, for everyone's knowledge, is a consumer goods product company that does small electronics, small appliances, as well as professional care goods. So they have brands like Babeless Pro, they have Cuisinart, wearing commercial products, Scunci, and so on. A lot of different businesses. And I'm excited to be the tech leader underneath them, running a lot of what their new and exciting adaptations of how technology is worked within a business space. So it's
and we got a whole group that sell to travel, tourism, and hospitality, and lots of your products and all sorts of hospitality products around the world and restaurants.
It's absolutely amazing how much you walk into a hotel and you don't realize the Conair labels everywhere. Or you might go into a restaurant or a hotel restaurant and seeing all our wearing products. And then, of course, every alarm clock that we all still use, even though we don't want to say, right? It's just amazing. We have a huge business and it's great to be a part of it.
Yeah, multi-billion-dollar business. And so in Europe, your brands are Fabulous Pro and other stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so many over in the European space. We're excited about how we continue to reinvent within that region. There's just Babeless Pro is probably one of our top lines over there. So well known, and people are looking for it, whether they're in professional or in personal care. It's just a great brand.
Lots of brands, lots of juggling. So, okay, you got to share it. What's your favorite comfort food?
So mine might not be as exciting as so many other people, but it is hummus. I'm a big hummus lover. It's one of my exciting moments where I can go to it and just feel like, okay, it was with vegetables, so maybe that counts as something good, but it's a wonderful food.
And now, do you make your own?
I do make my own. So I think that's why I love it so much. I do the right taps of just the olive oil and the chickpeas and the whole combination. Then I add in some little seasonings and it comes out perfect.
So do you like the hotter hummus, the peppered hummus? Where do you lean on the hummus spectrum?
Well, it's a great question. I think I love it all. It depends on the mood I'm in, right? If it's a day for a little spice, then add a little spice into it. And if it's a day for just a very mild and I just want to have a little something with my carrots or something, add that. But for me, it's always joy.
So how do you travel? Do you travel with some hummus? Do you say, I'm going to take some because that, do you bring some?
I don't, but you know what? A lot of airlines today are offering it as part of their package, which is amazing. And then you can really pick up hummus in so many different places. So I think that's why I actually enjoy it more. It just reminds me everywhere I go, it's just a little bit of something I can keep connecting with and know that, I can have a little treat, which I love.
Perfect. You got your treat and you're happy. Okay. So when you're reading your book, you've got hummus next to you.
Yeah.
You're at 35,000 feet in business class, flying somewhere. So what are you reading? And why did you choose it? What inspires you?
Yeah. I wish it was always business class. I will say that. Sometimes you don't get there, right? But what inspires me is there's a book by, William, Admiral William McRaven called Make Your Bed. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but for me, that's one of my favorite books. I lay it next to my husband's bed, stand for a purpose, right, and a reason. But I live a lot of my life against those types of same routines and understandings. And so I absolutely love it. I think it's very inspiring. I happen to be a big book lover of many different things, and it just happens to be one that I just go back to quite frequently.
Okay. Full disclosure. That's probably one of the best commencement speeches ever.
Absolutely.
And for those that are listening, you got to read the book, and you equally got to find Admiral McRaven's. Very easy to do on YouTube, and you will get 10 principles as to why you should make your bed.
100%. And I lived my entire life starting to make my bed I from when I was young, started to structure and make my bed every day. And I do that at hotel rooms. I do that at, anywhere I'm at, my bed's made, right? So it's a part of that, inspiring part of what he's been able to offer. And so the book is fantastic. It's not a long read, and I would heavily suggest it.
So just for everybody, so we can loop this off and move on to another topic, the message at the end is the message at the beginning.
That's correct.
If you have a kind of a tough day, you know that you got a really good bed to go home to that's made. And that's a good way to finish a day. So fantastic. Yeah, I'm a huge lover of that. I thought, that's especially with his background in for an admiral through the SEALs. And I think my favorite story is about the team with the small flippers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's one everybody should go and learn from.
Yeah.
So that we could do a whole show on that.
Do a whole show on that,
but that's not why we're here.
No, but I think it's so great that you had the same feelings and inspiration that I did, and why we go back to books like that. The quotes are things that you can't get past, right? They're the things that you always keep and you remember, and they become part of you. So it's great.
Never judge a flipper by the cover of their SEAL outfit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent story. Thank you for sharing that. And again, we'll put that in the recommenders, and no question that's one of my favorite books, but equally probably my favorite speech ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you think about, we were talking previously about changes, and you brought up early about AI, and you brought up early about, we didn't get quite into machine learning, especially with the MIT kind of predictions for the next few years, and some of them go out 30 plus years. We're talking about a world with no passwords. We're talking about machine learning, the metaverse. There's just a swirl of tech that is largely around insight, right, and connection, as opposed to not a whole lot of conversation about the anatomy of a tech stack. I think we know what a cloud is, but even the cloud might go away and become something else. Who knows? So when you think of you led our conversation earlier with insights. Mm-hmm. How do you see moving forward how AI, machine learning derives insight and drives your business? Or maybe you want to keep it broader than that. You go where you want to go.
No, I think it's a great intro. So, first I would say that, I love the insights we get from our consumers, but I especially love the insights I get from our associates as well, right? We have thousands and thousands of associates globally, and they give some of the best insight that we utilize in order to understand and adapt into technology. And I think that's a great passion of what makes it so great to be, a global partnership and leader, is that I'm able to hear and understand at different areas where people are, what they need, and how we can adapt to it, right? And use machine learning around that, right? So
could you do me a favor, just for those that maybe don't understand? Sure. What's the difference, just a kind of really brief difference between AI and machine learning?
Sure. So everybody has their own adaptation of that, right? Because we talk about it. I was in one meeting and someone said, what is your understanding of AI? And we had 5 different answers, right? And so, for me, machine learning is the understanding that when we go out and we do tasks, and the tasks are then rooted into an over again process and a learning machine, right? So it's kind of that, how do we help you do a better job within your day-to-day task work and development and understanding, right? And AI is really something that sits on top of a process that's already out there and allows you to see insight and directive in a different way, right? You're writing out algorithms to create new landscapes or ideas within data, right? And machine learning is really how to use those operations and really adapt to those operations in the right way. So they really, ML ops really came out more recently than AI. I think AI, look, we were all on that cusp when we saw different movies like Blade Runner and things like that. We knew that those types of really cool things were coming out, right? But what it did over the last couple of years is really jump forward as people became not so scared of it. But AI really became a part of what they could utilize in order to script out their data points better. Where machine learning, I think, is slower to adapt within because people are trying to understand what could it really enhance, right? We look at things like in our aptitude of financials, and we say that machine learning can be very instrumental in helping them to routinely get through processes that would take them a stretch of time. We can help them bring that down, right? And so that's kind of like the rapid learning process and other things, but we utilize and look at all of it, right? You could get into landscapes of, hey, what's edge computing? You could talk about 1,000 different things in one, but we only have a small period of time, right? So for us,
that might be another show.
Yeah, it's a whole nother show, right? But what for us, what we love is we love taking the new concepts and ideas and then playing within those spaces, right? So it may be we're looking at a particular party within the supply chain, and they need support around how to change out the routinely matters and how to do predictability, right?
Could you give us an example of that thing, case study, and say, right, is it in the white collar group, the kind of the group that are in the offices, or are we talking about in the plants, or where you outsource? What does that look like?
So it's great. I mean, look, technology is hitting all of those sources, right? Mm-hmm. So whether you're working on the warehouse floor and you're watching the conveyor belts run and those pick and pack programs are happening, machines are learning constantly about that and how they can divestly change that, right, to make it the best methodology so you can get to things faster. Where AI becomes a play in those types of supply chains is in the example I was mentioning is really helping us to predict out the models of when I have these containers or goods that are coming in from a location, how can we particularly understand where to adjust them and get the maximization out of that, right? Where again, it might take us a longer period of time to look at those views where you can set up, your different models to landscape and give you practical views that you can use, right? So they're all predictive models into that. So it's exciting to see that there is so much of that to adapt in any level of a supply chain, in any level of finance, right? In any level of a digital presence, in any level of sales, honestly. Everything can be utilized. It's the way that you put it through and be able to return that with the right premise.
So if we translate into the travel, tourism, hospitality space, cruise ships and so on, it's amazing the parallels, but sometimes we put these walls up, right? That says they don't know what we do and we don't know what they do.
Right.
Wherein if we just changed it from pick and pack to say a check-in at a hotel, or you're boarding a ship, or you're managing peak demand at a restaurant. The principles are fundamentally the same. What are the processes? What are the gaps? What are the obstacles? Is it a staffing issue? Is it a process issue? Is it a supply issue? And taking that machine learning and saying, look, let's take away some of the silly tasks from the humans. Let's automate that so they can be more efficient with either the client or picking and packing or loading a truck a certain way. I remember a story that, you probably heard this story many years ago, and I'm not too sure if it's really true, but I'm going with true, is the driver at UPS that suggested that, they need to map routes that only have left-hand turns. You spend all this time idling at traffic lights. Why don't you map that? All those engineers, the driver said, why don't you just do that? And sometimes those ideas within, right, are the ones that you're hoping for.
Well, and I think that's what the greatest part about this is. People used to be scared that machines were taking over so much of what their processes were, but they're not, right? You still need your ideas to come forward, but what it's doing is it's taking out some of that labor, some of that intensiveness around it, so you can actually get to better efficiencies and ideas for the business, right? So that you can keep building the business in the way that it should be built, and you can keep streamlining new products and ideas around that. And so in the hospitality area, as we talk about, right, it's important for us to be able to get out there and do, new replacements out to hotels and help the hospitality teams, right? Help the kitchens to understand how we can bring in new models. But that takes a lot, right? There's a lot behind some of our efficiencies of our products that we put out. And I'd rather spend the time and energy in building those types of things than having someone go through and say, I can't figure out how to get from A to B, right? Because there's too many gaps between that. We can use machine learning to build those gaps and let them get to B and then go to C and D. So that's really how we look at it. We bring everything forward so that people understand through the process that there's a comfort level here, that you will not be intimidated at all with what we're trying to build and present. At the end of the day, you're probably going to get something very easy to use. And if it's something within reporting and structure, it's going to be beautiful, right? And so a lot of times we make it so that the communities are really happy with the end results.
When you speak about your communities, I think that's so important. When you're talking about, you hit on a major point, which was intimidation or fear of the unknown, and how is it going to affect me? And technology is not as probably as approachable as it used to be, right? But now, when you introduce the concept machine learning, it has different meanings to different people. And you're right. Let's just look at the movies, and there we are. But so when you think of how you humanize it within your organization, and when you go out and you're meeting with people in the warehouses, or in a retail environment or one of your divisions, what are some of the common questions that the employees of Conair ask you to think about, or what do you initiate when you're out there?
Yeah, it's great. I think, the first and foremost, and we've talked about this, right? It's all about listening. So the first thing is to really listen and digest what they're trying to say, right? Really understand whether it's a problem, a new idea, a new business, whatever it might be, to really understand it first and to they take it. And I personally am I love whiteboards. I love white papers. I love laying it all out and getting it all out there. And so I take that idea and I landscape it. And I talk about landscape a lot because we talked about the peaks and valleys, but that's truly how a full technology view goes, right? There's ups, there's downs. That's in data. That's in the way that you put out your architect of design. It's all about it. And so I'll lay out a lot with my groups and, my very talented IT team, and we'll lay out a lot around, what we could do, options, right? And then we present the options to them in a way that they very much understand. I don't try to talk too much technical because they know that in order to build it, it's going to be technical, but I try to do it so that there is a lot of common communication there, right? There's a lot of value in words that we're using together so that I don't miss them at word one, right? I always say that technologists, if they want to really engage the room, they just have to talk like business and bring technology pieces into it, right? And really just talk like a common thread. And so I think that's a lot of what we do. And truly it comes out to be, the result is everyone understands what they're looking for. We generally put in the right tech stack to match it. And we take that period of time to keep reinitializing it through the process and have them understand what is that requirement and how do we get there.
First of all, I think if some of my former teammates in other worlds, they going, Sean, put down the marker and step away from the white wall. I believe passionately in white walls and everybody's office. And I love the term landscaping. It's just fabulous. Yeah. So you touched on the notion of communication and making it, talk about it in a business and then introduce the technology. I tend to ask this question frequently because I'm looking for, what's your view on this and advice to other CIOs and CTOs. And, what are the mistakes that you think CTOs and CIOs make within business that are avoidable, that may, whether it's comms, whether it's looking for funding, what advice would you have to up and coming CIOs and CTOs?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, the thing I always go back to, right? First and foremost is always just sitting and listening first, right? Don't speak until you understand what you're speaking about, right? Hear what they have to say first. And then once you hear it, then go back with ideas. Don't go back with the notion that you're just going to take it over. Go back with ideas, right? Go back with different options that might work. And by doing that, it means that you're actually giving them part of the conversation to agree on points. And that's so important. When we go after new technology, whether it be in the digital space or on the operation side, or, even in the hardware, when we talk about certain hardware aspirations, we bring people into the conversation. We ask them, how would you use it? What would you do with it? And will it work for you? And so we do surveys around that, right? We'll bring our lab items in and we'll sit down and we'll survey it. And it's important because if you don't have the buy-in from the communities that you're working with, then you actually have fallen flat and you'll never get it off the ground. And it doesn't matter how much time or money you put into it, it'll never be utilized to the fullest because without their understanding about what you're bringing in, again, new application, a piece of hardware, wherever it might be, without their understanding about it, it's never going to go anywhere. So my suggestion is to always pair and partner with those that are really important in the industry. And that doesn't mean you go out to every group president that you work with. There are all of the underlining associates that are there that are actually doing the day job every day that are going to be important to the conversation. So we bring in valued partners at every level within a business group, and we ask them to talk in the space with us, to work through it, and to understand what we can do to make everything better. And by doing that, I think we've come out to some great conclusions. We've had some amazing projects hit our targets, our cost budgets at the end. And I think by doing that, when you go into things like costing, you actually get the partnership so that if you get stuck at any level that you can't get the funding, you bring in your business partner with that, and they're not afraid to go after the dollars with you, right? They'll stand up right next to you and say, yes, this is really critical for our future, or yes, it's a part of our business partnership and we need to get it done.
So can we say that again? You actually partner to actually have a business case, and then you jointly go to where the CFO's office and go, look, we're here on force here, and here's getting business reason why this is a good thing.
Yeah, and I know a lot of technologists don't do that, but
no, they don't.
They don't, right? And if you don't, then how, on those ones where you're like on the edge of, I'm not sure I can get it in this year, but it's so important for the business. How else do you negotiate to change, right? At the same time, when we're looking at 5 or 6 projects in front of us, those that are very partnered with us are the ones that we'll take forward, right? And those that don't partner with me, I tend to hold off until they're ready to, because if I can't get them to buy into it and go in and try to get the dollars with me, then they're probably not going to be ready for it, and then that's not worth it to me. So I'm not saying that they have to step up every time, but those times that we need them, that's how you do it.
I do know in the short time that we've got to know each other that you travel a lot. I do, yes. And so you stay in hotels and accommodation types all the time?
All the time, yes. Hotel, trains, planes, and automobiles.
Yeah, right. So you can if you take an airplane and a hotel, what you're sitting there, you're a process expert, you're a technology expert, you're a digital expert. What are the tasks and experiences that stand out and go, God, I could fix this? When are they going to fix it? What, really?
Really? Do you want me to start?
Yeah, let's start with planes, and then we'll go to hotels.
So for planes, I think planes right now, they've done a better job of starting to do more efficiencies around it. I do think that there's still a gap between, what a person understands on what time they're taking off and how they're getting there and the whole 9 yards. Some people have done a great job of bringing up apps and helping the communication drive right through SMS and all. but I think that there's still so much more to go. I think that that is one of the most challenging factors is when you're delayed, what exactly does that mean to you? And if you have connecting flights, how exactly are you going to get from A to B if you are delayed? And I think there's still that process where people are calling too much for that. There's not enough information just at their fingertips or on display boards or, within these. I don't see any kiosks or things where people can go in and actually do more for themselves. You see a kiosk when you go in to now, set up for your flight and, check in, but then they're gone after that, right? And there's not enough of those touch points to help people understand. Additionally, like in hotels, look, I think the old-fashioned phone of calling down to the front desk or to the bellhop could be, instrumental in change, right? For you to be able to do more, whether, you do it through an iPad in the hotel room or through the TV, or you do it through a connective iPad or text or something, is so much more important, right? Concierge services right now are crucial to make the change of what people are looking for. And that's not a lot of overhead. People don't have to change a lot to put that in, but they will get return and repeat consumers from that, right? Small personal touches as well, right? So on technology side, you see things. And I love sometimes when I walk into a hotel, my name's up there. But I also think, as much technology as we can put into everything, like I always want my key card to work. And I was at a resort recently and my key card failed. Every time I went up to it, I had to get a new key card because they were having problems.
And then you're going to traipse all the way back.
It's the worst thing that could happen, right? So coming up with better methodologies, quicker, faster, more efficient, but also personalization, right? Personalization is absolutely key. People want to know that they feel that they're a part of those dollars that they've just spent, and that people understand that, they might be tired, they might be going through, whatever, these different, or they might be there for a holiday or something. So personalization is key. So sometimes just a personal note or something to tell them, by the way, we're here for you. Let us know if we can do anything. And again, same thing, right? Small touches. Yeah. iPads in every room might be a little challenging. So if you can't go that route, do something with the connection. Gather the consumers. You're already getting their details. Gather more of it and do something with it.
I was at a event with Apaleo, and I was moderating the future concepts.
Yeah.
This week, just came back yesterday from Munich, and some of the questions we started asking and were asked. So I'm going to ask you the same question. I don't know how you're going to respond to this. The question to many was, how many fields of data do you have, or fields, just fields, around the customer?
On personalized data that comes in, I'll say it's probably from our B2C environment where we get the most data points. And we do profile information. So I would say we receive probably, 15 to 20 data points within what we do. I would say that's probably, and that's, again, it's not a generous model, just based on the fact that we're a little newer within that space. And we're also trying to figure out, hey, can we really do better on this? What can we do with the data once we get it? So I would say 15 to 20 touch points about a consumer. And that's anywhere from, the IP address that they're coming in from, right? The regions, the land, the areas that they're coming in from in different areas, who they might be from past selling and cross-selling, right? It's coming in from information about, and that could be a whole nother stream of data points that you get, right?
Right.
But it's also about who they are, right? If they have a profile with us, it's all about who they are so that we can make it more centralized to them.
Yeah, I think in the hospitality space, it should be in the 50 to 100.
I agree.
When you kind of think about it, but that's not the normality. And what we're trying to influence is saying, to your point, and we could go down now, privacy and GDPR and California equivalents. And, there's an argument out there that, holding on to all the data isn't actually the safest thing either. Right. Now, however, let's say that we hold on to not your previous stays or something like that, but what are your preferences? Pillow, what seat you like, that seems reasonable on a plane. Absolutely. All of these, they've got this, but it's amazing how they don't use it.
Right. Well, and it's interesting. They do have it. I know I'm certain members that I sign up for, right, for the travels and all, and it's in my profile. And then, interesting enough, even my travel ID is always in there, right? My
Sure.
TSA number and stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not even picked up. And I always say, well, if it's in the same position every single time I travel with the same thing, why is it half the time that it's utilized in my ticket and half the time it's not, right? So there is a lot within that I don't think they're doing very well. And I do say this, I think the pandemic was a hard time for hospitality and travel. But taking a gap like that is a good time to rethink and redevelop, right? Because if you're not as busy, then you're not chasing and running after that. And so there is a good part about that. So it's interesting. I did meet recently on one of the tech spaces I was in, two individuals down in the Florida area, two CIOs. And one was actually at the Tampa airport, and they were doing facial logistics to help people so that if they had a big crowd coming in, they could find out where they were going in the airport, open up certain spaces, and figure out how that works. I would say there are definitely some that are looking at that, but they were doing facial recognition too, not in a negative sense, but in a sense of, hey, we want to make sure that if you're going in the wrong side of the airport, we can call you to tell you need to go on the other side because your plane's about to board, right? And so they were using technology in the way to drive what you were just speaking about, right, in the hospitality. They were doing it so that if they had 20 planes that were being diverted and they all had to go into one part of their area and it wasn't open, they were able to reopen restaurants, reopen seating, and allow people to have comfort. So there's a lot of good things that you can use within all that structure and data. And that's just simply from the point of purchasing the ticket straight through to who else did they purchase with, when did they purchase, where are they going, and how can I recommend more against that? And then once they're on there, how can we drive them into the right places to have the best experience to have them come back again?
And when you continue, and we all continue with this conversation, is what is an experience now, right? The experience is probably very tangible with an airline or a hotel.
Right.
But when you think of the experience with your products, how do you get a sense of what your client likes, and what makes their day? This is the shape of a hairdryer, or this is the clock works this way, or, the air fryer works that way. I mean, how do you find all that and make sense of it and then evolve a product?
Yeah, it's great. I think from a hospitality perspective, right, it's harder because I think when people go into the hotel rooms, they're just happy to have something they didn't have to carry on their luggage. So they're very excited to say, oh, great, I can get up in the morning. And by the way, I can blow dry my hair, or I can have ease of having a cup of coffee with my Cuisinart machine and stuff. So it is a little harder. I think that becomes more of the B2B partnerships and then anything that they might have come out of that. But, I'm not the expert on that side of it, but I would just say that that's where we're seeing a little struggle, right? On the other consumer points, it really does come out to different preferences. And so understanding those preferences and kind of developing against each one so that if one product's not right for someone, they can at least understand that product and buy something else that might be underneath the portfolio. And so offering underneath, let's say, a Conair label, 20 different hair dryers, there's purpose to that, right? It's not because we want to keep building new different hair dryers, although that's an exciting part of it. It's because our consumers are very different. And so you have to be able to give enough so that they can understand and pick up a blow dryer. And if it wasn't the right one, how can I go get one that is going to work for me? What am I looking for? And so that might be sensory devices where they just wanted to auto shut off. It might be that they want it lightweight because they are a stylist and they're trying to constantly blow dry their hair and they don't have like the movement anymore. Or it could be something very powerful, very hot, right? So I think understanding that one size doesn't fit all in any consumer business that you're doing, and then try to take all that data that is fed in and then resurface it to say, when one size doesn't fit all, are we doing enough to try to fit what the majority are and all those different touch points against it? And so we just try to help drive that and give as much information back on it. And our consumers do a good job about giving feedback, right? We use services to give surveys. We use services against every touch point of buying to make sure that they always have a voice back to us. So we keep building the right products for the right sourcing.
Sounds ominous, all that data coming in all the time. So as we begin to wrap up, and we think about probably what drives the business, because obviously you're a prime example of none of this is going to happen. I haven't checked if a hairdryer is sentient yet, but nothing's happening unless there's a credible leader and then people around that. Labor is a big issue for a lot of industries today. What are your tips on what you're doing to keep the great people that you have, and then compete across technology against wide variety of industries to attract them to your business? What's the secret sauce?
Yeah, well, I would say that again, I wish I had the full secret sauce, but I would say
it's in the hummus. I'm telling you, it's in the hummus.
Exactly, it's in the hummus. So for me, I would say I'm very open, honest with my teams. You know, I communicate all the time, and I can't use the word communication enough in anything that we're discussing, right? It's just the key to everything. You know, I'm not a leader that sits behind the desk only. I like to engage. I love developing. I love doing what other people do. And I feel like there's a lot of relationship there. Understanding those that work for you and what their goals are is really essential, because if you're not offering them all that you can, right, or building them up to the degree that you can, or educating them the way that you can, then you're just missing why, you know, you have associates around you, right, and what you could do for them. And I think for us, it's all about making sure that they understand that if there's a change, right, what that change means, right, that I'm always there for them. We're constantly moving in the right direction. And, you know, it really becomes a partnership. You know, a leader is nothing without those that they're leading, right? And so for me, I believe in everyone that works for me. I'm very passionate about what they do. I feel like they're the brightest and strongest out there. And so it's exciting to be a part of their journey, and for me to watch them build and learn. And so that becomes a part of my journey. And I think they feel and understand that. And in between, we have fun, right? We have good communication tools. We do things like, you know, chats together. We'll have goofy moments. We'll do online now because not everyone's in the office at the same time. So we'll do online events, you know, trivias, and then everyone gets to win a little prize. And it's a good time, right, in between, because you have to have that human spirit in between it, right? And then every once in a while, just touch in and say, how you doing? You know, how is everything? What can I do for you, right? I love that there was a show that came out, I didn't have a chance to watch most of it, but the show Amsterdam here in the States, and it was all about, you know, that touch points. So I don't watch a lot of TV, unfortunately, right? I'm one that doesn't have that opportunity, but it just appeared to me, because as a leader that he was creating for himself, he was the same as on myself. Like, what can I do for you, right? Where I'm here to help you. You know, and that's really the important sense of it.
At the end of the day, we're the ones putting it together and setting the tone, and we set the tone through the chain, and up and down doesn't make any difference. It's omnidirectional. So that's amazing. So on behalf of everybody that's watching this and peripherally tuning in through different channels, thanks a million for taking the time. I know after 10 weeks of travel, probably the last thing you want to do is do this.
Oh, great.
So, you know, I really appreciate it. It's been an amazing chat. I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface of the stuff that I'm learning and want to ask you. So I feel very fortunate about that. So thank you very much for taking the time. And you've been just so brilliant about being flexible and coming back and forth through different schedules. I mean, it's genuinely appreciated. So thanks to everybody out there. I'm just going to wrap up now, Dara. So, you know, thank you so much. And equally, Conair is in every hotel room, every accommodation space, and you don't know it, but it's there. So have a look at it, speak nicely to it, and give feedback. We need more data points. So thanks to everybody out there for taking the time to tune into Adapters TechX. It's been a real privilege to speak with Dara Meath. Dara, you know, has shared with us some really simple tips and takes. And in fact, it seems like just general good tips and takes, regardless of whether you're seeking funding from the central CFO office, or those with the keys to the proverbial Coinbase are, as importantly, listen first, work off the ideas. Information really paints the landscape. Pair and partner, and under your team, understand their goals, because at the end of the day, this is going to be a difficult labor market. Tech across the board is trying to do everything in their power to attract great people, and they're competing with each other regardless of what category you're in. So this message of understanding your team, what are their goals, how do you advance their goals, how do you advance their careers, they'll remember that. They may go away and come back, but that's what makes it great. Pair and partner. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody at No Vacancy for tuning in, and our producers at Hunter Gatherer. Thanks, Art and team. And we'll see you again next Wednesday. Thanks again.